Did she threaten anybody this day?
Did Michelle threaten anybody this day?
Yes.
Dan?
Not to my knowledge, she did not threaten anybody.
Okay, that's the question. I want to ask you, the union put on the record that you made comments of complaints against the person that's before us today, and that you weren't able to bring anything in writing. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Can you tell me why you would do that and then not be able to back it up?
Look, I'd like to flesh it out a little bit. When we said that there was other complaints, the complaints that were coming across, and Dan can speak to a little bit of it, but what we had and what we were dealing with was what Linda was complaining about Michelle.
Linda says in here that Michelle called her a bitch. Michelle did not call her a bitch.
Do you think it's okay that you raise your voice on other employees and call them a bitch?
I didn't call her a bitch.
You didn't? What'd you call her?
I didn't call her anything. I told her what she was doing was stupid. And stupid was the harshest word I used.
Did you raise your voice?
I did. It was a loud place. And
It was a loud place, so you raised your voice?
yeah.
So really none of this really happened. It was just a normal day, and they came and got you and terminated you.
It was far from normal.
So I just want to make sure I understand that you're here today and you're terminated, but you didn't do anything wrong.
I believe that.
Okay.
With all my heart.
You didn't do nothing. You didn't raise your voice.
I did raise my voice, but I work in a really loud place and people raise
So
their...
you didn't raise your voice because you were angry. You raised your voice because you work in a loud place.
No, I wanted her to know, don't move it.
The union's put on the record that, Joe, that you'd agree that they both should be taken out. You believe that to be true?
Well, that's exactly what happened. Both of those employees were removed from service.
I was brought back with pay because she was the only person doing the screaming. It was only when she had to go to state, the first time ever that anybody alleged violence. When she had to go to state to get her job back, that she brought up any allegations of violence at the state hearing and claimed I slapped her hands. Dan Kelly will attest to the fact that it was not brought up the day of the Matt moving. She was hired back without pay.
Yeah, I'd also like to bring up that in Michelle's initial statement in the investigation, at no point in time did she say that she had grabbed the mat or that Linda had hit her.
You mentioned, Dan, that in her first statement she never mentioned anything about slapping her hand in her first statement. Was it a written statement?
Yes.
Did she ever give you a second handwritten statement?
No, it was after she completed that statement.
Michelle, can you tell me why those?
I was very nervous. I get nervous around Dan. Very nervous.
Is that an important part of it, you think?
I believe it is an important part of
Her
it.
slapping your hand?
It was said, but it wasn't written. Yeah, I believe it was very important.
What do you mean it was said?
I'd spoke it, I'd said it, but I didn't write it
Who
down.
did you say it to?
These are these two guys right here, Andrew and Dan, in my first
After her
initial
written
meeting.
after her written statement to the company, after her written statement, when did you find out about the hand slapping, or did she say that during some of your interviews and just didn't write it down?
At the end of the written statement you have, before the line is drawn in where I seal it, she made the statement, which ran counter to the statement she had given prior to that. During the interview process, I started asking questions about the events, trying to get all the
Okay,
details.
here's my question.
Okay.
From the time she wrote the statement to the time she told you about slapping of the hand, how much time expired?
She finished
From the
writing
time
last-
she ended it and to the time she told you that?
She finished writing her last statement and then looked up and said, by the way, she hit me. It wasn't anything big, but
Okay, so she mentioned it at the time of after she gave you the statement.
yes.
Okay. Did you find that significant?
I found the statement significant because it contradicted what she had said previously.
Well, It wasn't days previously, right? It was like seconds,
It was minutes.
minutes, right?
And as Michelle said, there was physical contact. This is before we had the local level and everything. On her own, Linda decided it was necessary to put in her statement there was absolutely no physical contact between us. That question hadn't even come up yet.